Hey everyone, it's Gary from Peacekeeper's Armory. Here I have a Phoenix Props version 2, the complete CNC machined hilt and weathered by Artisan FX. And this is installed with a Proffie board V2 and NeoPixel. I'm sure people have done it. I know people have done it with Corbanth. I personally haven't seen anybody do one with the Phoenix Props V2. So I'm pretty excited to be able to show this off. This is for a client of mine. This is also a video, kind of a how-to for Nathan, and I hope you enjoy your saber. So right off the bat, I mean, not that I did it, but the weathering and the, not the weathering per se, but the effects and artwork on here is just phenomenal. Artisan FX just does a really great job with that. So to start, really the only thing you're going to need to know, I'm going to show, and then I'm going to open it up further. So to charge and to kill the board, all you got to do is unscrew the bottom, and then you got your kill key right here, which is already in the on position, so I can turn it on. And then just pull it out and plug in a normal 2.1 millimeter recharge port, or recharge cable. And then you could charge it up. It has a single 18650 battery in here. I tried looking for a decent double length 18650, but I didn't find any in the high drain side, and I didn't want to screw around with making one myself because I know there's some intricacies to it. So we went with the single. It's more than enough. I mean, you're still going to get your hour, 40 minutes to an hour runtime, depending on how you use it, of solid runtime. So that's that, and then you can see your numbers right there. Let's see. So your main switch is going to be this guy, which is pretty zeroed in really nicely. Sometimes these are a little bit tricky. I believe this was already pre-glued to the screw on the inside, so it shouldn't screw loose. It's spinning right now just because it's a plunger. It's free floating in between the hilt here, so you shouldn't have any problems with that coming off. And then this is the what it's called, the auxiliary switch. So I got that down pretty much flush, so you won't accidentally hit it, but skin's soft and will form to things, so you just push it once, you push down into it. As long as you don't have like a solid thumb or something that won't squish a little bit, then you won't have any problems pushing that. So right now there's only the one font on there like you wanted. It's Kyberphonics unstable font. It sounds amazing, it has great sounds, and it's got the new Smuggler's Outpost speaker in there, which sounds amazing. When you take this the handle off, which you shouldn't have to, but if you did, it was literally ear splitting because it was just pure sound going into your face, and it sucked. So I had to put this on just to test it because it was a bit loud. Obviously it's inside a room in a house, so it doesn't sound as loud if you're outside or anything at a convention, but it's still awesome, and it's crazy loud. So these are your 3 screws you need to take off. If you're going to take this off, I'll show you kind of how to do that safely if you need to. I don't recommend it just because the switch here is it's right in between here, and if you torque it the wrong way or tweak it the wrong way, you could rip the switch off, which you don't want to do. And I think you said you're not going to be doing any updates or anything to it, so you shouldn't have to take this off, but if you do for whatever reason, I'm going to show you how to do that. But first of all, basic operation. So here's your blade plugs right here. You need 2 different Allen keys. Unfortunately, I don't have the size off the top of my head. These are just kind of in my go-to pile, and because pretty much every saber I use needs these 2. So for this one, when you're screwing it back in, you only want to screw it until it starts to resist. You don't want to like really crank it down because you don't want to strip the screw because it's not that thick of a material right here. So you're going to get this guy in here, you're going to untwist it, and then it's going to come off. Same with this. So there's that. And then for the main blade plug, see if we can get some actual brightness in here. For the main blade plug, there's 2 set screws. There's one right here above the switch, and there's one right here. If you're going to be really swinging it around, then I guess you can use both. I typically only use this one because, I mean, you really only need one. And then there's that. So the cool thing with this is it has the stock Custom Works NeoPixel Pogo pins. So I had Will from Divinium custom make me some NeoPixel holders. So these are the short pins in here, and he custom made it so that it would fit inside the Quillions without any modification. They're just a tad too small of an OD, so I did glue them down, just the bottom ring around the heatsink, the original heatsink that's in here. But honestly, the smallness, or the short, if you want to call it the shortcoming of it, is perfect because you can get it, kind of right there in the center. And if you need to take the Quillions off for any reason, those are going to stay on there, and there's not going to be any resistance from the pins, so you don't have to worry about breaking those off or anything. So it worked out perfect, and really turned out really well. And then this has the KR Sabers, what do you call it? Not heat sink, but holder, the pin holder in there with the acrylic disc to kind of hide the LEDs a little bit. So I'll show you that real quick. Let me turn it off. Sorry, it's really loud, so I don't want to overpower the speakers. So I'm going to mute it so you can see. Unfortunately, these aren't shine through. There are some, I think Proplicator made some 3D printed ones that have some really cool looking shine through in there. But so, I mean, you can see when you put this in, it's not going to really show anything. But, if you just want to have a belt hanger or something and you want to be able to turn it on, it looks really cool. Just kind of sticking out of the lights. The lights shining through, I mean. So, it turned out really great. I'm a fan. So I have 3 data lines just because, actually no I don't. I have 2 data lines. These 2 are on one data and then this one's on another. It just made it easier to program to have those separate, but all the power is connected the same. So the power and the negative line are spliced together between the main and the side. So that is that. So here are the Proplicator blades that you had installed, and forgive me, I forget who installed the blades themselves, but they turned out really well. Because of how narrow they get at the tip, obviously you can't have a shine through, so it kind of stops right about here, which you'll see, but it still looks amazing, and I'm sure somebody at some point will make some blades, or if they haven't already, that are more designed for full lighting up. But in order to do this, you can see there's some pushback from the pins. So you're going to want to hold this down. First you want to rotate it because there's a certain point where more of the stem is actually hidden. So you want to push this down, and then you want to tighten this. Again, not over tighten. You shouldn't be dueling with the Quillions. But it is plastic, so it's a little bit more forgiving than the metal, so that's really good. And again, you're going to want to be careful when swinging this around now because you might snap off the piece. So then the same deal here. So hold this down. And then there you go. Now, Proplicator does make a main blade sleeve, which I do recommend. It's just kind of like about this long, and it goes over the 1-inch blade. If you don't have that already, it makes it, that little extra bit special. But let me put this guy in. Just to refocus, right? And then turn it on. So you see it turned out really well. Traitor! Oops. So this is a combination of Fernando's unstable font, and I made a couple modifications. You can see the white flares come up every once in a while. That's sort of unavoidable from what I could find, but I mean, it looks amazing in a super dark room. It's like the real deal. But as you can see, they don't quite reach the very tips. But again, that's just because you can't fit, because this is basically solid plastic right here. Still looks great. Again, I'm sure at some point they're gonna make some better ones which will work perfectly. But until then, I mean, it looks. I can only say so many times. It looks really good. So I'll turn this guy off. So this does have localized lockup. So lockup's going to be somewhere in the middle of the blade. I think it's local clash as well, so it'll kind of jump around a little bit. The side blades do not do any of the effects. They're going to stay the same the whole time. And then blaster block it disperses throughout the blade at different points, as well as drag tip if you point the blade down. Now to show you, let's see, I'm trying to think of the best way to show this. I'll just take the main blade out. So we're not going to be able to hear me very well probably, but I'm going to turn this on, and then if you hold the power and then push the auxiliary, there's 3 settings for this. So there's the main one, which is the one I just showed you, and then there is it's kind of more of it's called brown noise flicker, so it doesn't have the fire effect added, and then there's one that's just the fire effect. That's part of Fernando's style change that he did for this version. So I'll just kind of run through that real quick. The main one, and in my opinion, the best looking one, is the first one, but if for whatever reason you want the other effect, you can do that. So. And then you swing it. So you can see it's a little less unstable, and it's more just a flicker. And then that's a more heavy fire. This is my favorite. It's a combination of the both. So that's my favorite. And then you push it again to choose it. So you hold this down shortly and push the button. And then you'll get that sound. And again, with the one sound font, you can just when you push cycle like on auxiliary with it off, it'll just redo the same sound font. So if you want a cool voice, you can say that as many times as you want. Double click power when it's on.
Anything else?
And you'll get a couple different force effect sounds. And that's pretty much it for basic operation. Again, just be careful when you're swinging it around with the Aquilians. They do go in there, I'll say, about 3/4 of an inch to an inch. I mean, you can see. But it's really easy. I'm not used to it. Swinging it around with those, it's easy to hit your own arm. So that is what it is for Kylo Ren, I guess. All right, so for the inside, you need the secondary. This is the same size as the blade plug up here. So you're going to take these guys all the way off. Sorry, I don't have anything to say at the moment, so this is kind of boring. All right, so when you take this off now, the red cable is connected to both of these, and this are 2 separate pieces. So you want to make sure you kind of grab it in the middle, so you grab them both at the same time. And you also want to pull it out straight. You don't want to twist it in any way, because then you're going to mess with that switch. So I usually kind of push off from here while holding this straight, and use the Quillians as kind of as leverage. And then slowly get this off. There's a little bit of resistance because I'll show you in a second. So once that's clear, then you can just pull this the rest of the way off. Now the resistance is from these. These are the wires, which I heat shrinked because otherwise they might show through the side windows over there. And there's red and black and whatever color I used for the, I think it was white for the data line. So you don't want to see that. So I use heat shrink on those to kind of hide them. There's your KR Sabers battery, and then your Proffie board V2. So as you can see, this wasn't really designed for access to this board in mind. This does have an insert, the Proffie board adapter from Goth. So I mean, it's not the cleanest just because there's so much space in there. There's nowhere for the wires to sit, but I braided them and everything, so everything's pretty safe and secure. So I have to use one of these cables in order to plug it in. Super short and annoying, but it's the thinnest and it will fit in here. So you need to use some pretty sturdy tweezers to grab the base of this, and then slowly kind of wiggle it into the port there. And then you can use some needle nose tweezers and get at the SD card, which sticks out conveniently, so you can still grab it pretty easy. So you need this if you want to update the settings or anything like that. You can do the SD card access on here. It is set up so when you plug this in, it's going to open that up. It is slow process, so wait a second for it to load up. And if you delete something, then that doesn't take long, but if you add any files, that can take quite a while. I think a full font can take 20 or 30 minutes. Otherwise, you can just pop the SD card out and do it quickly that way. If you do that though, if you change anything, if you upload or do whatever, make sure you delete the .ini files on the SD card, which are the color save state, the profile save state, and all that, because that can cause glitches in the board as well if you keep those in there. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Nothing special in there. Yeah, that's your saber. Again, you shouldn't have to do that, but in case you need to, there you go. So as you can see, the plunger, when you put it back on, you're going to want to kind of put it on upside down so that the plunger isn't in the down state and nick the switch when it goes in there. So you want to make sure it's in the up state. Start sliding this on, and then you're going to want to, that's what you're going to want to watch out for right there. Make sure that gets in there nice, and then that's going to snap into place. And then you have to twist this until you find the hole lining up with that one. And then you can screw this on. Just for the sake of the video length, I'm just going to screw this one in for right now, and I'll screw the rest in later. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, feel free to message me. I provide after commissioner support as much as I can. And I'll see you guys on the next Peacekeeper's Armory lightsaber demo.